Hi, it's me, your host, Carbet, and welcome back to the Dead Dad podcast. I apologize up front if I sound nasally or sort of sorry. If I just sound sick, I think I have some sort of head cold going on. So that's a lot of fun. I also moved the camera a little bit. It's also daylight. It is the middle of the day to me recording. I now realize you can see my laundry basket and other stuff. That's a garbage bag of like stuff that I've bought from Amazon and I needed to just throw that away. So I realize you can see a lot more than I originally planned. You also can't tell the color of my shirt really well, but it's green. Today was a green day. So but yeah, I apologize ahead of time if I sound very nasally. If I'm also louder, it's because I'm home alone, actually, for the first time. Today's a day off, so I'm able to record and do stuff like this. Yeah. Woo. So I don't have to worry about me being, like, super loud or super, I can be as loud as I want without having to worry about other people, I guess, other than my neighbors, but they're pretty chill and I don't get that loud, so I don't scream. So, anyways, as I mentioned in the last episode, I figured today if we're gonna talk about okay. Let me stop right there. Today we are going to talk about The Last of Us, The Last of Us 2, and also specifically The Last of Us TV show season 1 and 2. If you have not seen the video game or played the video game or seen gameplay of the video game or the TV show, fair warning, I will be talking about spoilers. Okay, I cannot simply talk about certain things without spoilers because I like to yap, okay? I like to talk. So, I will be mentioning spoilers. If you don't want spoilers, I suggest this is not the episode for you. But if you don't care, you still want to hear me yap, by all means continue. So anyways, if we're going to talk about dead fathers, I think it's a very safe assumption to talk about Joel Miller. Joel Miller is the main character for The Last of Us video game and also the TV show for Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2. I know Part 3 is like in the making or should be coming out soon. I don't know. We'll see. I have not played the game, but I've watched gameplay of it. I've watched certain YouTubers and Let's Players who have played the games. So I do know the general. I rewatched Jacksepticeye play Last of Us Part 2 as Season 2 was coming out, just to kind of give myself a basis of like, I remembered what happened, but I was like, man, there are so many little details of part 2 that I totally forgot that I was like, you know what? This is a good thing I rewatched this. As I said, Joel does die. And I'm not going to lie, I'm a little sad because everyone who was watching season 2 of The Last of Us, who knew what was happening, what was going to happen, they got to the part where Joel dies and they're recording either their family members or their friends or people who have not played the game, their reactions to it, and they all had like this, oh my, what, why would they do, like this a very dramatic reaction, which is a fair, like, you would not expect that to happen. No one expected that to happen. And I watched it with my mom, and my mom had like little to no reaction other than she turned to me and she was just like, why'd they kill him? And I was like, you're gonna have to keep watching to find out. And then season 2 ended the way it did, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm not that satisfied with how this season's going. Or how season 2 went. Season 1 was really, really good. I think any of the changes that were done from the video game to the TV show made sense. Like, if there was a change that was made, there was a logical reason of why it was changed, and it made sense for the universe of The Last of Us TV show versus the video game. To me, it made sense. Now, for season 2, I think some of the changes that were made did not make any logical sense in my personal opinion. I Because then we brought back the whole like cordyceps, and oh, if you're listening to this and you don't know what The Last of Us is, it is a video game about zombies essentially. And we have Joel Miller. We'll start off with The Last of Us 2. We have Joel Miller, who is a smuggler. They have these quarantine zones, or QZs as they call them, and him and his, I guess, friend slash lover, Tessa, they're smugglers. So they'll come in and out of the QZ. They're basically, they're run by Fedra, which is like the military police. And it's been 20 years since the initial outbreak. So they smuggle in and out stuff. There are these rebellious groups, one specific rebellious group called the Fireflies, that actually there's a situation that happens and they cross paths, Joel and the Fireflies, and they're like, Joel, can you please smuggle this girl out of the QZ? We need to get her to, I don't remember what state it was, another state on the other side of the country. Can you please go smuggle her? So that he agrees because he needs a car battery, or he wants to find his brother. So they make a deal like, hey, I'll do this. So he goes and he does that. And Joel has his own trauma and stuff. One thing I found very interesting when I was watching a video, and they were like, you do realize that Joel is not like the whole point of his character is he was a bad guy. He wasn't always the good. He is the bad guy in the video game. And he slowly becomes the good guy. And then when you get to Last of Us Part 2, he is like, he's not who he was. He's not this smuggler. He's not this murderer. You know, he's a very chill individual. Like, he's finally able to let himself rest from years of doing stuff that he's, years of stuff that he's done. And so anyways, you still part 1, and he bonds with Ellie, the girl he's been tasked to smuggle out of the QZ. And he finds out that she is actually immune to the cordyceps virus, which is actually a real thing. If you Google it, it is a real thing. It is actually something that attacks, it's a fungus that attacks ants, latch onto their brain, and yeah, it's a real thing. And what I liked about in the TV show, they're like, hey, this could actually happen XYZ. If the whole reason why cordyceps can't survive now, I gotta blow my nose, I'm so sorry. Huh. My nose is runny. The reason why the cordyceps can't survive now in a human host is because our bodies are just way too hot in temperature. It couldn't survive. We would simply just burn it out because our internal temperature is just so hot. But with the increase of global warming and the increase of the earth getting hotter as it is a possibility that the cordyceps could evolve to then attack humans, which is a crazy thought. But Ellie is immune. She has been bit several times and she is completely immune. I am not going to go into the whole scientific, how this works, how Ellie is immune. If you want that, go game theory it or film theory. Like, MatPat has truly dived deep on how exactly she's immune, and I trust his. I am not a science person, okay? I am not good at science, okay? I wouldn't rely on me for scientific explanations of things. I am not that person. That being said, she's immune, and so he gets her to, I don't remember what state it was, if I'm being 100% honest. He gets her to this, like, where this other Fireflies camp is, and they get there, and they come to find out they can make a cure with the fact that she's immune, but in order for her to do that, in order for them to do that, she would have to die because of what it is attached to her brainstem. So she would die in the process. And Joel's like, nope, I'm not doing this. Screw that. And so he has a full-on shooting spree and kills everyone there at the hospital. And he takes Ellie, and for years he has just told Ellie, like, hey, they found other people who are immune. You are not the only one. There's not really, they couldn't do it, blah, blah, blah. So they made us leave. And in the back of her head, Ellie has always been like, something's not right, you know? And so then we get to part 2. It's been a few years. Ellie's like, something's just not right. And I will say there are certain things in the video game that I didn't like the pacing of it. And because, like, the whole Ellie does find out, but like, you start off the game and Ellie is just so mad at Joel. She's very upset with Joel, and you don't know why. And you know, it's been a few years since everything has happened. They're living in Wyoming. It's going great, and she's mad at Joel, and you don't know why. And then Joel dies in the most horrific way possible, and she's like, I'm gonna revenge Joel. And even some people were like, I don't understand the point of why Joel died, or like the whole point of the like Last of Us Part 2 story. And essentially, it's revenge is not always going to give you what you want. That's essentially the whole point of The Last of Us Part 2. Abby, we get introduced to a girl named Abby. Abby's father was the lead surgeon to operate on Ellie to try to make a cure. Joel shoots this man, and he dies. And Abby is mad. Rightfully so. She lost her dad. And she goes on this like huge thing of like, we gotta find him. So she finds Joel and she kills Joel. And then she goes back to Washington and basically kind of has to live her life as if nothing happened. Well, then Ellie is like, who is this girl? I'm gonna find her. So then Ellie goes after Abby. And it just kind of starts this whole cycle of just like, well, you killed a person I loved, so I'm gonna kill someone you love. And then this is back and forth. And there was a lot of people who were very upset on how the video game ended, where Ellie basically finds Abby, and at this point Ellie has like, this is the second time she's gotten to a point where she's gotten to Abby. Like, Ellie got to Washington to find Abby. She got there, got it all figured out, and she was like, yes, here we are, let's do it, let's go. And essentially everything that could go wrong did go wrong, and they had to leave Washington. And then several years, not several years, but like at least a year or two passed, and Ellie still hasn't like gotten past what happened. And Joel's brother Tommy comes up to Ellie and is like, hey, this is where Abby's going. This is where Abby is. Let's go find her. And basically Ellie's girlfriend's like, you go. I'm not going to be here when you leave. Like, or when you come back. I'm going to be gone. I'm taking my son. Bye-bye. Peace out, homie. Have fun doing whatever you're doing, but I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to deal with it. Which, good for Dina, okay? I want to give a shout out for Dina. As much as so many people, I think, want to kind of crap on Dina that, you know, why wouldn't she stay? Homie went all the way to Washington with Ellie in the first place. Dina was pregnant, like early stages in her pregnancy. And so much, like, she was having so many issues with her pregnancy. And then just, it was a whole crap show what happened in Washington. Truly, truly crap show. And for then Dina to be like, you're going to go back after Abby? Absolutely not. I'm not doing this. And even Dina says it. She's like, I've dealt with the nightmares, I've dealt with the panic attacks, I've dealt with all of it, and at this point I don't know what to do to help you. And Dina really loves Ellie. She loves her with all her heart, but she has to think of her son, and she has to think of, herself. So she makes it very clear to Ellie, you leave. I'm not going to be here when you get back. Ellie leaves and goes to find Abby, and she does, and they get into they get into a fight. I was going to use a big word that apparently I can't pronounce. They get into a fight, and in that moment, Ellie's just kind of like, I can't do this. There's no point. There's no reason. This is not going to help anything. This is not going to help me. Because that's the same thing that happened to Abby. Abby got what she wanted. She wanted Joel dead. And then she went back to Washington and was kind of like, well, what do I do now? Because the guy I love is hooking up with some other girl who's pregnant. Whatever his stupid face was, I don't even remember. It's not even worth repeating because he's such a dummy. Like, it was. I really don't like that character. I think that because then he was dating Abby. He breaks up with Abby. He gets with some other girl, gets her pregnant, and then cheats on that girl with Abby. Monster, that's what you are. A jerk. Men. Gotta just hate them sometimes. Man. Like, why? Explain that to me. Anyways. But, the revenge didn't get what Abby wanted. Yes, Joel was dead, but it didn't help her with her trauma or anything like that. Like, as someone with a dead father, I can tell you that there are certain things that I've been like, hey, maybe if I do this, or hey, if I do that, this will help me with my trauma. Nope. Hey, all these external factors that I'm doing to try to help with my trauma is not helping the internal factors. Wow. That's crazy. I gotta blow my nose. Actually blow my nose this time. Lord have mercy, I totally forgot. If I'm being 100% honest right now, I totally forgot what I was talking about. Trauma. That's what I was talking about. Crazy. So yeah, like you do all these external things to try to help an internal problem. Like it's not gonna help you. Crazy, right? Weird. But it's truly like, I think The Last of Us, if we're not gonna sit here and nitpick everything that's going on with the story, if we really just take a step back and analyze the story as a whole, I think it's truly a story to show like how human we are, and how beautiful our humanity is, even in our absolute disaster. I think that's what this story really shows in such a very, very beautiful and very sad way, because I, as someone who lost a dad, I can sympathize with Abby and Ellie. Like, I can sympathize for both of them. Truly, I can. But at the same sense, I can sit back and look at both of them and be like, y'all are both idiots. Both have your heads up your butts. Like, please take it out. It's not a hat. Like, it doesn't work. It doesn't work when how you're doing it. Like, and again, the whole revenge, this revenge cycle is not going to give you the results that you want. And I think it's just truly like such an interesting story of just like humans, like you take a step back and you're just like, wow, humanity is really cool. If you really, really think about it, humanity is really cool. As much as we suck 99% of the time, I think we are still a very beautiful species in our, even in our saddest and most destructive moments. We are truly a beautiful species. And you got to look at the whole, the Seraphites. Like, that right there, like they were this religious cult that had a leader who died, and even in after she died, they were like, what are we going to do to continue her legacy? And they were doing everything they can to protect their the legacy of, I don't even remember what the woman's name is. Feel her love. That's what the big, all the pictures said. But after she died, they did everything they could, what they thought was right, to truly preserve who she was and everything that she represented. And even in that of trying to preserve it, as humans do in human freaking fashion, they messed it up. And that's just so, like, so true. And, obviously you can tie religion into it, and Christianity, and be like, well, that's the whole Jesus story right there, which it is. That is the whole Jesus story. But to even just look at The Last of Us as a whole, it's such an interesting story, and it's like, it's truly like, it's such a, I think it's so cool that humans can come up with these crazy, crazy stories in their head, and they're like, there it is. That right there. And I'm like, that just caused me the most awful heartbreak. Years of therapy I'm never going to get back. And money that I spent. And you're just like, haha, tee-hee, I came up with this silly story. No. It hurt. Thanks. Gosh. One thing I really was racking my brain on was, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I probably am, but something that I was really thinking about, because I was rewatching The Last of Us before we started The Last of Us season 2. It is always just assumed that Ellie's mom was a Firefly because Marlene claimed that she knew Ellie's mom and had a letter that was like, hey, Ellie, like, I'm your mom. You haven't been born yet. And, like, I got bit, blah, blah, this whole thing. And it even happens in the TV show, which they had Ashley Johnson play Ellie's mom, which I thought was perfect. So perfect. But I was really thinking about it. I was like, how do we know Marlene's not lying? Like, really take a step back here. Marlene was the one that supplied the letter to Ellie when she realized Ellie was immune. Like, are we really going to just assume here that Marlene knew Ellie's mom? We're really just going to assume here? And assume that she's telling the truth? Because how do we know she's not lying? Because she could just be lying out of her teeth. And she's using this as a way to be like, well, Ellie, you don't know who I am to you, but this is who I am to you. And manipulating the whole situation. Because then that makes it 10 times worse. How do we know that's not, just a theory. A thought, if you will. It's like, how do we know? Has it been confirmed? Truly, has it been confirmed? I could be wrong. I could be 1,000% wrong. I could be very wrong on this. But how do we know it's true? Like, do we know for sure? And then, speaking of video games that have become TV shows, I think it's a very safe assumption to talk about the Fallout. I love Skyrim. I will have a whole episode dedicated to how much I love Skyrim. But I think Fallout is such an awesome TV show. I loved the TV show. There were some things I had to Google because I was just like, I think I'm missing some things, and I don't think it was just really the TV show's fault. I think there was just some stuff that I just was missing because I'm a little dumb. Who texted me? No one important. My boyfriend's ignoring me because he's in class. Rude. Bro. Anyways. So there were some things I had to Google, and I had to ask one of my friends, one of my coworkers. I was like, hey girl, I'm a little confused. Can you explain this to me? And she explained it to me. So thank you, Jordan. I really appreciate it. Prior to the TV show coming out, this same coworker was like, Carly, you need to play Fallout. If you loved Skyrim, you'll love Fallout. And I was like, I don't know. I'm gonna have to play Fallout now. I'm gonna have to actually get like a PS5 or something because I have a Switch. That's all I have. I have a Switch and my Chromebook and my 10 million year old MacBook that everyone's like, Carly, just play games on that. That thing overheats when I have a Word document up, and my Google Chrome laptop is a glorified tablet. Okay? That's what that thing is. That's what this... I'm not going to pick it up because the wires are going to freak out, and I'm not doing that. Another thing too, I have like 1,500 wires I feel like attached to this thing just to record this. It's so crazy. This whole recording process is, I thought this was going to be a lot easier, but it hasn't been, okay? I'm recording this on my Google Chrome glorified tablet laptop thingy. I then have to upload it to Google Drive, screen record it on my phone, and then upload it to the cloud so then I can access it from my MacBook and then download it from there so I can edit it and then use iMovie, because iMovie is apparently the editing software that I like to use because it's just, for me, it's simple and it makes sense. Anyways, Fallout. I am gonna have to get like an actual like gaming PC or like a PS4 or a PS5, or maybe an Xbox. I don't know, because I want to play it now. I want to play it. There is a YouTube channel. I'm gonna look it up now because I want to make sure I give credit where credit is due. What is it called? I'm going to be 100% honest. I don't know how to pronounce that. Fizhy. Fizzy? Are you going to focus? This guy does... He does theories, not really theories, but he'll talk about certain things. Like there were certain things from like the Skyrim universe that I was like, you know what? I didn't realize that. I didn't realize this went deeper than that. Crazy. But he does Skyrim, he did some Fallout ones, he did Oblivion ones, he did the one that was featured on that on the screen there was Fable. He does Red Dead Redemption. I think he also does Grand Theft Auto. Excuse me. So he does a couple of them. So that's how I've been able to get some of my Fallout fill is from there, other than the TV show, which I think the TV show is fantastic. I love how you have the whole Fallout universe, and each game is in a different timeline of the universe. And rather than kind of like taking a character like, or the storyline from like say Fallout 4 or Fallout 3 or Fallout New Vegas, like rather than taking like that storyline, they're like, let's take our own little sliver of time and we will create our own sort of story and our own character in this universe, and we're gonna implement it. And I think it's such an interesting like concept of you have all of these factions, and they're all like, they all suck. Like, can we all just take a step back? Like, the Brotherhood, it's just like a big old cult. They're rude and they're awful, and they treat their followers like absolute garbage. And then you have, what is it, the scientists? I don't know. I'm not a bit, what is it? Like the scientists with the dogs. They're not great either. And I think there's a third one, and I don't remember. And if I remember talking to my coworker about this, like, she's like, all of them kind of suck. And that's what's so great about the whole thing, is like, they all suck. Like, all of the different, like, groups of people that you can possibly join, they're not all good, and they're not all bad. Like, there are some of them that are like, oh yeah, this is like, if you are truly a messed up person, this is the group that you join. And maybe that's just the type of gameplay you're going into. That's if that's how you play. You know, if you want a character, your character being played like that, by all means, go for it. But overall, I think what she was saying, that like, they're not all good, but they're not all bad in the same way. And it's like, it's just such a very interesting concept and interesting story. And like, Fallout was, I don't really, I realized I completely sidetracked from what I was originally talking about. This whole this whole episode was going to be about Last of Us, and now here I am talking about Fallout. Oh man. There goes the ADHD on a brain. But the Fallout, the different Fallout stories are just so, not all of them are inherently good, and not all of them, the factions, not the stories, the factions, they're not all good and they're not all bad. And, I think it really gives you this type of, how to truly, weigh the pros and cons of it. And then especially how it then translated onto screen, because you basically are following these three different people. You're following Lucy, you're following Maximus, and then you're following the ghoul, and you're following all of them, and you're getting like sort of some background about certain characters, where they've come from. And I think even that, the whole Fallout, like, idea, spoilers, okay, spoilers, that the whole Fallout nuclear war was an inside job. And that's what's so crazy, is that they're like, we're going to create a whole out nuclear war. We're gonna basically capitalize on the end of the world, so we can sell it to people, so then we can convince people to go into these vaults, so then we can turn around and test on them and experiment on them. Isn't that insane? Because I could see that happening, which is so crazy to think, but I could see that happen. I could truly see the powers that there are in our government and in our world and society. As outlandish as that idea is, I don't think we're far from that happening. Like, especially everything that's happening now in our political climate. I don't care what side of the line you land on. I'm just standing here in the middle being like, can y'all not see what's happening? Can we really just be like, our government is trying to pin our each other against each other? Like, they are making the line in the sand so hard for us to then be pointing it at each other, being like, no, you're the crappy person. And then them on the other side being like, no, you're the crappy person. For us to get so distracted about what's happening. And it's like, dude, can we really, really take a step back here and really analyze that? Anyways, off my political rant. I could see Fallout truly happening in our own real world. I could see it happening, which is crazy. Such a crazy thing to think of, that I think Fallout could actually happen. Because it shouldn't. Something like that shouldn't happen. And then when you really like analyze all the different experiments that happened in all the different vaults, I know I just talked about how humans are so beautiful even in their destruction. We kind of suck sometimes too. Can we really take a step back here? We also really suck. So, I think it's just such a Fallout, again, is such an interesting story. And I think that was very translated well onto film, onto the TV. And I'm really glad we get to have season 2 coming around. As of the day of me recording this, it is June 19th, 2025. So I'm assuming that the new Fallout will be coming out, I'm guessing next year. So, but I think, yeah, I really think that Fallout translated very, very well onto TV. I think the same thing for The Last of Us. Now, season 2, I kind of beg to differ for. Season 3 is yet to be seen. But, and especially since we don't have The Last of Us Part 3. And, like, what are we going to be talking about? Ellie? Like, I'm very curious. Did Ellie go back to Jackson? Did she? Where'd she go? Do we know? Like, she just walked off. Do we know where she went? No. I don't know. I guess we'll see. Other things that I think Last of Us, let me spiral back here. Some things that I do believe that The Last of Us did well is they did expand on certain things that the video game didn't, like Bill and oh my gosh, what is his name? Bill and oh gosh, it's gonna bother me. I can't believe I forgot. Oh no. Oh no, I forgot. Last of Us. Bill. Frank! Bill and Frank. They expand on the Bill and Frank story. And I loved that. And it was so sad. Oh, I cried. I bawled my eyes out. Oh, I cried. Just sitting there, I was just crying. I really liked how they expanded on it. And they did obviously they made it different than the video game. But I think how they did it was such a interesting way. And it's just I'm glad they expanded on that. And so I do think that was one of the things that translated very well, because we didn't get to see that. Excuse me. We didn't get to see that in the video game. It was alluded, it was talked about, but it was never really discussed. So I'm glad we do get that. I'm very excited for The Last of Us Part 3. Not the season, not the TV show, but the video game and the Fallout. Another video game that I'm not going to get into, maybe I'll do a whole episode on, is the FNAF. That's another movie I need to watch. I need to watch the FNAF movie. Apparently for some people, they didn't really, really like it. MatPat was in it, apparently. But I'd like to watch it. Everyone said it flopped, but they're making a second movie, so apparently it didn't flop that bad. So, but I think that's all the ranting I have for today, especially when it comes for The Last of Us. I hope y'all enjoyed this episode, especially since I just ranted, and I apologize if I was loud, and I apologize for my sniffling and sneezing. Hopefully by the next episode I'll be fine. And yeah, I have not figured out a schedule for this yet. I'm kind of just doing this. I love how I started promoting this, and I had people come up to me, people who I know who have dead fathers, and they're just like, the Dead Dad podcast, can I join in on this? And I'm like, heck yeah, homie. The more the merrier. Dead Dad Club. Yeah. But yeah, I hope everyone enjoys their day. Thank you for listening. I will see you in the next episode. I think I have a list. I have a whole list of what I want to talk about in episodes, like ideas. And I think what did I say? Bob's Burgers. Yeah. I love Bob's Burgers. Yeah. I was actually watching it today. Today is it's June 19th, so it's a federal holiday, so I don't have to work. And I was watching it actually. I had to go get my car. Fixed. Down $400. But before we dropped the car off, I was watching an episode, and it's an episode of Bob talking about his wedding anniversary and the gift he got for Linda, and their wedding anniversary is 9/3, which is my birthday. Their wedding anniversary is my birthday. I'm so excited. Anyways, I'm ranting now. I'm stalling for time. Yeah, I might talk about Bob's Burgers in another episode. I might talk about something completely different in another episode. I'm not sure yet, but I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks for listening, and I will see you in the next episode.